I know my boss is the villainous second lead. She is conceited, she is malicious, and she is a total bully. But I still can't bring myself to leave her. Simply put, she pays me way too much. After waking up inside a novel, I found myself as the secretary to the resident villainess. In the original story, she was a nightmare who did nothing but torment the innocent, sweet but clueless female lead. When I first read the book, I wanted to jump into the pages and strangle her. But now that I'm actually here, staring at the six-figure monthly salary hitting my bank account, I've decided to be the most dedicated employee in history. The villainess I know, the secondary lead I know, my most respected boss, was currently pacing and muttering to herself. What should I donate to the charity gala next month? Garrison better not bring that Serenity girl again. Zoe, help me out here. I need to make a grand entrance that will leave everyone speechless. Zoe is me. Garrison Miller is the CEO and the male lead of this over-the-top romance. Serenity Rivers is the female lead. In the original plot, my respected boss donated a third of her company's capital just to get that arrogant CEO's attention. To her surprise, Garrison only mocked her, calling her a superficial spendthrift and telling her to learn some humility from Serenity. My boss, Vivian Sterling, blew a fuse and ordered her assistant Amy out to teach that little brat a lesson. That led to Garrison's retaliation, the company's bankruptcy, and Vivian ending up homeless on the streets. This charity gala was the exact point where her life started spiraling down the drain. I bit my lip and walked a slow circle around Vivian. She came from an elite family, grew up with piano and ballet, had a killer figure, porcelain skin, and hair that looked like it belonged in a shampoo commercial. Thinking about such a gorgeous, high-maintenance woman becoming a street person made my heart ache, so I instinctively gave her a hug. What are you doing? Vivian pushed me away, looking confused. I asked for an idea. Why are you hugging me? Oops. I got too caught up in my thoughts and lost control for a second. I quickly made up an excuse. I was just checking how soft you were, boss. What if Mr. Miller gets overwhelmed with emotion and wants to hug you? Vivian's face turned bright red. What on earth are you talking about? An employee earning $100,000 a month needs to earn her keep. I stepped into my role as a professional strategist. Come on, boss. Let's head to the conference room and draft a real business proposal. Vivian looked stunned. Even though I used to be a fan of the original couple in the real world, my life motto is strictly look out for number one. Wherever I am, I have to survive first. Right now, that means keeping Vivian's company afloat, so I don't lose my meal ticket. I dragged Vivian to the planning office. What are you doing? Vivian was getting annoyed. I told you to help me get Garrison's attention, not to make me pull overtime. You don't get it, do you? My brain was working at high speed. Think about it. What does Serenity have that you don't? Is she richer? More beautiful? Why is he obsessed with her? Because she's different from every other girl he knows. Exactly, boss. So at the charity gala, you need to be different too. While everyone else is just throwing money or jewelry at the problem, you're going to present a unique, sustainable charity project. When the media starts praising your brilliance, Garrison won't be able to ignore you even if he tries. In the original book, she wore the most expensive dress and donated a fortune, only to be mocked by Garrison for being out of touch with reality. Vivian hesitated. Will that really work? We won't know until we try, right? Money talks. With one order from Vivian, hundreds of professional charity proposals landed on her desk like a blizzard. When she actually focused, Vivian looked like a completely different person. A sharp, elite girl boss. Exquisite. Absolutely high class. I pulled a folder from the mountain of paperwork. This is the one. We went over the details and polished the plan together. As we finalized it, she looked skeptical. This feels kind of cheap. Boss, think about it. Winning a standing ovation without spending a dime is the ultimate power move. It's unique, it's bold, it's bright. I kept coaxing her. How much have you spent on Garrison already? Has it worked? No. So let's try the free approach for once. She nodded, half convinced, and we headed out to a high-end steakhouse for dinner. As the server approached our table, she suddenly let out a small, ah. The girl was in a standard waitress uniform, hair in a ponytail, clutching a menu. Her face was pale, her lips pressed together, and she stared at Vivian as if she'd been horribly wronged, yet was stubbornly holding back tears. Before I could even process what was happening, the girl was pulled into a broad, protective embrace. Vivian Sterling. Is Serenity working a part-time job as a waitress offensive to you now? Hearing that name made my whole body stiffen. Good Lord. Serenity Rivers. Even her name sounded like a typical romance heroine. And the blind, biased man jumping to conclusions. That had to be the male lead, Garrison Miller. Garrison pulled Serenity behind him like he was protecting a wounded cub. His face was cold, and his voice was a deep, moody growl. Vivian, you'd better stop testing my patience. I've warned you before. Serenity is off limits. What are you talking about? Vivian snapped, her temper rising. We just got here. I didn't even recognize her. How am I bullying her? We were the customers, and Serenity was the waitress. Instead of serving us, she was acting like we'd slapped her. Seeing the tension between Vivian and Garrison, Serenity tugged on Garrison's sleeve and whispered, "Miss Sterling, I'm so sorry. Here is the menu. What would you like to order?" "Get me a different server," Vivian called out. "Where is the manager?" It was a perfectly reasonable request, but in the ears of a kind, hardworking, and suffering heroine, it sounded like a death threat. Serenity swayed on her feet, looking like she might faint. Garrison held her tight, his eyes filled with pity. "Vivian, you really think you can do whatever you want just because your family has money? Fine. I'm buying this steakhouse right now. You're not welcome here. Leave." Just like that, the restaurant changed owners within 30 minutes, and we were kicked out. Vivian sat on the curb, looking defeated. I made Garrison angry again. She looked at me like a lost puppy. What should I do now? I squeezed her hand, giving her a watch this look. I pulled out my phone and dialed the city's business bureau, the labor board, and the consumer protection hotline. My complaints worked like a charm. Rumor has it that the steakhouse became Garrison's first ever financial disaster since he started in business. When Serenity heard about it, she felt so guilty that she started working multiple jobs day and night, claiming she had to pay Garrison back. Eventually, she collapsed in the middle of a torrential downpour. That night, Garrison supposedly picked her up in front of a crowd and carried her 2 miles through the rain to the hospital, all while his driver followed behind them in a freaking Maserati. From that day on, Garrison ignored Vivian entirely. He even put out a public statement. I, Garrison Miller, could never love a woman as malicious as Vivian Sterling. If you ever target Serenity again, I will make you pay. Vivian was so angry she nearly ended up in the hospital herself. I didn't even do anything. Why is everything my fault? Zoe, go find someone to teach that girl a lesson. Here it comes. In the original book, Vivian's downfall started exactly with teaching Serenity a lesson. As an employee who values my life, I quickly jumped in with some advice. Violence solves nothing, boss. In the art of war, the highest form of victory is outsmarting the enemy. Physical conflict is for losers. Vivian looked thoughtful. Did Sun Tzu say that? What does outsmarting mean? Like using a better trap so we don't get caught. Good God. She's gorgeous, but there's really nothing between those ears, is there? I decided to pivot. Think about it. If our goal is Garrison, we need to focus on Garrison. Why did Garrison take that little brat to the hospital? Vivian asked. Why? Because she was working hard. Think about it, boss. Garrison is a CEO. What does a capitalist love most? Vivian nodded. Money. How vulgar. No. Hard work. In the original novel, Serenity's personality was her biggest draw. Even though she was poor, she was diligent, hardworking, and studious. Garrison even met her while she was working at a hotel. I had the staff prepare all the company's recent performance reports and ordered the department heads to give daily industry briefings. Vivian protested. When will I have time to go see Garrison then? Who cares about him? Your company is about to vanish. Facing her doubts, I stayed patient and spun a new narrative. Look, Serenity works so hard, and that's why Garrison likes her. She works 16 hours a day. Let's start smaller. How about you work 10? Vivian reluctantly agreed. That actually makes sense. Fine, I'll work 10 hours a day. Under the constant guidance of the department heads, Vivian was soon buried under a mountain of reports and strategies. Even Garrison started feeling uneasy and began asking around about what Vivian was up to. Just like that, the plot where she bullies Serenity was bypassed. I finally felt like I could breathe again, until I ran into Serenity at a high-stakes business auction. What has Miss Sterling been busy with lately? Work, I told her simply. Running a company this size isn't easy. You can relax, she won't be bothering you anymore. If Vivian doesn't look for Serenity, the main plot shouldn't involve Vivian, right? I didn't expect Serenity to look up with those big, tear-filled eyes again. Are you looking down on me? Fine, I'm poor. I have no money. You guys get to go inside while I'm stuck here as a greeter. Are you satisfied now? Me. Vivian might look down on her, but what does that have to do with being a greeter at an auction? As a loyal employee, I couldn't let my boss be slandered. I told her sternly, my boss has never thought that, and I'd appreciate it if you stopped obsessing over her. Serenity watched me with red eyes for a long time before finally walking away. That afternoon, while the finance department was reporting to Vivian, Garrison suddenly burst into the office. He slammed his fist onto her desk. Vivian, what the hell are you trying to do? What am I doing? Vivian looked completely lost. I'm trying to figure out how these consolidated financial statements actually consolidate. Stop the act. Garrison pointed at me and shouted. Ever since you hired this little henchman, Serenity has been crying all day. Don't tell me it's not your fault. Who are you calling a henchman? I'm the chief executive assistant. What does that have to do with me? Vivian was stunned. I've been in the office all week. Check the security cameras. If she cries, it's my fault? If she trips, did I break the sidewalk? If she overeats, did I cook the meal? You're still making excuses. Garrison was fuming. Serenity keeps defending you, telling me not to come here. And you? You won't even admit what you did. You're just full of lies. But I literally didn't do anything. Vivian felt like her head was going to explode, but she tried to stay calm. She's not defending me. She's just stating the obvious. Shut up. Garrison narrowed his eyes. You're beyond help, Vivian. I'm done with you. Winter is coming for the Sterling family. He let out a cold huff and stormed out. Vivian was still in a daze. She shook her head hard. Anyway, back to the point. How do these consolidated statements work again? When Garrison said winter is coming, he meant he was going to destroy her. According to the rules of these stories, Garrison would now start targeting Vivian. His targeting meant announcing a total boycott and no Miller-affiliated companies were allowed to work with the Sterlings, and he even started poaching their rivals. These tactics were petty and childish. But to Vivian, it was a massive humiliation and a crushing blow. How could he do this to me? I'm innocent. She was on the verge of a breakdown. It's all that Serenity girl's fault. I'm going to ruin her. Seeing Vivian drifting back toward the dark side, I grabbed her shoulders and shook her. Get it together. This was an unfair disaster, but compared to the original plot, it was still a light blow. Vivian had just started breaking free from the script. I couldn't let her get sucked back in. But Garrison misunderstood me. She cried like a heartbroken child. He called me malicious. Fine. I'll show him exactly how malicious I can be. Honestly, I could see her point. But no. Thinking about the future of the Sterling family and Vivian's tragic end, I gripped her hands and comforted her. Men are like stray dogs. If you chase them, they run. Be the steak instead. Make them beg for a bite. Vivian wiped a tear. That was a solid metaphor. To distract my boss, I used her credit card to buy premium subscriptions to every streaming site. I made her watch endless dramas where the female lead wins back the man's heart by becoming a powerhouse. Vivian stayed up all night watching. Her takeaway was, beauty, brains, and a little bit of mystery. That's how you win without even trying. Well, it's a start. Beauty was easy. Vivian was already high society royalty, with top-tier looks. She just needed to ditch the obsession and dress for herself. The hard part was the brains and mystery. I brought in the best glam squad in the city. Based on her new girl boss persona, I had them design a sophisticated, regal look for her. I also hired an image consultant to train her every move. Over time, Vivian Sterling became the most famous female CEO in the city. Take right now, for instance. Vivian was standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, sipping coffee. Languid. Ethereal. Every candid photo looked like a magazine cover. I happily posted a picture on her social media. Caption: a quick break after a long day of ruling the world. 3 minutes later, an uninvited guest burst into Vivian's office. Following my instructions, Vivian suppressed her excitement. She stayed calm, holding her coffee with elegant poise. Garrison, what a surprise. Vivian, are you serious right now? Me, Vivian. Garrison was livid. You keep posting these photos just to show off that Serenity is poor? Is this petty mockery really worth it to you? Mockery? A CEO taking a photo with a cup of coffee is mockery? Vivian's expression went cold. Garrison threatened her. You're drinking coffee from the very shop where Serenity works part-time. You took a picture just to brag, and Serenity has been crying all day because of it. I'm ordering you to apologize to her, or else security. Garrison was dragged out by the guards. Before he left, he shouted, Vivian, you'll regret this. The Garrison and Serenity of the original book were a classic pair of overdramatic leads. It was that kind of story where the male lead has a stomach ache, and he has a doctor friend who says he's never seen the CEO care about a girl this much. I only read the book because some influencer lied and said it was a masterpiece. Vivian threw her coffee in the trash and scoffed. I get in trouble for drinking coffee now. Garrison has seriously lost his mind. Hallelujah. My boss finally realized the truth. I struck while the iron was hot. He's sick. Let him go to a hospital. From now on, the guards aren't even letting him pass the lobby. Stay away from the lead, live a happy life. To forget one man, you need another. I quickly borrowed a 6 feet 1 inch academic heartthrob from the local university. I had him delivered to the office under the guise of being the lead researcher for our new green energy project. This guy was tall, handsome, and built like a mountain. Just standing there, he radiated charm. He introduced himself politely. Hello, Miss Sterling. I'm Parker Vance from the university. Oh boy. His voice was like velvety, deep and clean. He was easily on par with Garrison. I quickly grabbed his hand and then Vivian's, forcing them to shake. I signaled Vivian with my eyes. Introduce yourself. You're usually so chatty, what happened? Vivian actually blushed. Wow. The villainous was falling for a man who wasn't the male lead. This was cause for celebration. Excited, I pushed them both into the massive office. Go on, get to work. This energy project is our biggest profit maker. Don't let me down. Professor Vance was a true prodigy. He was brilliant and direct. Within a few days, he identified tiny flaws in the Sterling EV line that no one else had noticed. Soon, the new Sterling electric vehicle hit the market and was a massive success. Parker was thrilled. He nervously asked Vivian, "Should we go out and celebrate?" He rubbed his hands together awkwardly. "My treat. Anywhere is fine. I'm not picky. Or we could just go for a walk." Vivian blushed again. She didn't say much, but she gave a small, silent nod. Considering Parker was just a professor, Vivian actually chose a humble, local diner for their date. The moment they walked in, they saw Serenity. She was in a simple white tee and black skirt, hair in a ponytail, wearing minimal makeup. She was behind the counter, ringing up a customer. Seeing Vivian and Parker, she froze. She looked Vivian up and down, then looked at her own scuffed shoes, biting her lip. In this plain little diner, Vivian in her tailored suit looked like a diamond, blinding everyone in the room. "Miss Sterling." Serenity gripped the edge of her apron, looking lost, and forced a martyr-like smile. "This isn't really a place for people like you." "Why not?" Vivian was confused. "Is there a membership requirement? Only ordinary people come here. A wealthy socialite like you. It puts pressure on the other customers." Serenity tilted her head up. "People come here to fill their stomachs, not to show off. I'm also here to fill my stomach." Vivian turned to Parker. "How about you?" Parker nodded. "Same here." Serenity noticed Parker and hesitated, seemingly recognizing him. "Professor Vance, did Miss Sterling?" She bit her lip and looked down. "Doing that, I want to say something but I won't act again." Then she suddenly spoke up loudly. "Miss Sterling, even if it makes you angry, even if you retaliate against me, I have to say it. Using Professor Vance just because Mr. Miller is ignoring you is an insult to the professor." She stood up straight, losing her timid act, looking like a brave girl standing up to a tyrant. Serenity looked at Parker, then saw Vivian's growing anger, and a flash of triumph crossed her eyes. Vivian instinctively tried to explain to Parker. "It's not like that, don't listen to her, Serenity quickly took a step back, shaking her head. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything." She looked terrified, as if she'd been threatened. "Professor Vance, if Miss Sterling likes being with you, you must have your own merits. It couldn't possibly be just to make Mr. Miller jealous." She looked at Vivian, then lowered her head, fidgeting with her hands. "I'm so sorry. I've said too much. I hope I didn't cause any trouble." In just a few minutes, Serenity had played 3 roles. The brave victim, the righteous truth teller, and the bullied girl forced to apologize. Just as Vivian's temper was about to hit the ceiling, Parker turned and looked directly at Serenity. Serenity's expression grew even more smug. Parker spoke slowly. "Who Miss Sterling works with is her business. Who I spend my time with is mine. Now, can we get our food, Miss Waitress?" The silence that settled over the laminated wooden counter of the golden spatula diner was absolute, save for the low, rhythmic hum of the industrial refrigerator in the corner. Serenity's fingers, which had been clutching the hem of her grease-stained apron, in a perfect show of tragic innocence, went entirely rigid. She stared at Parker. Vance, her large, tear-rimmed eyes wide with a sudden, absolute confusion. Professor Vance?" she stammered, her voice losing all its sweet, fragile resonance. You're ordering food? But Miss Sterling is only using you. She doesn't actually care about your research." "My research has already been patented by the state intellectual property office, Miss Rivers," Parker said, his voice low, steady, and carrying the quiet, absolute authority of a man who spent his life dealing with clean, mathematical certitude. "And the Sterling Group's venture capital is currently funding my laboratory. Now, if you are not the registered cashier for this section, please call the manager. We have a 50-minute lunch break and my team needs to return to the university by 1. A faint, splotchy pink crept up Serenity's neck, coloring her ears under her ponytail. She looked at the menu in her hand, then at Vivian, who was standing beside Parker, looking incredibly chic in her cream-colored Chanel blazer. I'm the cashier," Serenity whispered, her head bowing as she reluctantly punched the order into the terminal. Vivian didn't look at her. She didn't offer a smug smile, a sharp insult, or a dramatic reveal. She simply took her seat at the corner booth, her long, elegant legs crossing under the table, her porcelain face calm and unyielding under the diner's cheap fluorescent lights. "Zoe," she murmured, leaning her head toward me as I slid onto the bench opposite her. "The consolidated financial statements for the 3rd quarter. Did the M&A team review the logistics margins?" "They did, boss," I said, pulling my tablet from my tote bag. "The margin is currently at 28%. It's the highest in the sector." Good, she said. For the first time since I had woken up inside this novel, my boss looked like a real, living person. The arrogant, insecure villainous who had spent 20 chapters crying over a man's text messages had vanished, replaced by a sharp, elegant CEO who knew exactly what her company's valuation was worth. The door to the diner did not just open, it bounced against the brass wall stops. With a sharp, metallic ring, Garrison Miller walked in. He was wearing his bespoke gray suit, his hair slightly loose, his face sallow and tired. Behind him came 3 of his personal bodyguards, their hands resting on their utility belts, looking as if they had just arrived to secure a military zone. Serenity, Garrison roared, his eyes scanning the quiet room before locking onto the counter where his heroine was standing with her head down. What did they do to you? I saw the company car outside. Is Vivian Sterling harassing you again? Serenity immediately threw herself into his arms, her head burying in his chest, her soft sobs echoing through the silent diner. Garrison, please don't. It's not Miss Sterling's fault. I was just being clumsy. I didn't mean to make her angry. I sat in my booth, took a slow sip of my ice-cold lemon water, and let out a quiet, tired sigh. Here we go again. The male lead and the female lead were starting their private drama, and as always, the script was trying to drag my 6-figure earning boss into the mud. Garrison, Parker Vance said, standing up from his seat. His tall, mountain-like frame straightened out, his shoulders broad and steady under his dark wool sweater. He looked down at the CEO of the Miller Group with a quiet, executive disdain. This is a public establishment, and Ms. Sterling is currently hosting a business lunch for my university department. Your personal security detail is disrupting our schedule. You. Garrison glared at the professor, his dark eyes narrowing into a lethal, angry line. You're the academic nerd she hired last week? The one she's using to show off on social media? Richard, get this loser out of my sight. The largest of his bodyguards stepped forward, his hand reaching for Parker's shoulder, but before his fingers could make contact, I stood up and laid my tablet flat on the table with a loud, deliberate thud. Mr. Miller, I said, my voice carrying the flat, level rhythm of a dry court transcript. Under Section 12 of the Municipal Civil Code, any unauthorized physical interference with a state-funded research director on a university-affiliated project constitutes a third-degree misdemeanor, carrying a mandatory 48-hour detention. My terminal is currently recording this interaction, and the file is being mirrored to the city prosecutor's office. The bodyguard's hand froze. He looked at Garrison, then at the tablet in my hand and slowly took a half step back. Zoe, Garrison hissed, his voice dropping into a register that made his own assistant look nervous. You ungrateful little henchman. You think a few legal threats can protect the Sterling family? My father's holding company has already initialized the short-term capital withdrawal. The Sterling stock will be insolvent by Friday. The Sterling stock is currently backed by the National Green Energy Grant, Mr. Miller, I said, showing him my screen, which displayed the official government portal. We received the approval notice at 9 this morning. The Treasury has already authorized the first phase of $50 million. If you withdraw your capital, we will simply buy back your shares at a 90% discount. On Monday morning, Garrison's face went from pale to a sallow, splotchy purple. He stared at the blue government seal on my screen, then at his own phone, which had been silent for 2 hours. No, he whispered. The meeting is concluded, Mr. Miller, I said, gesturing to the door. Please, exit the property. The lunch rush is starting, and the cashiers are very busy. The winter in the city arrived in a flurry of gray rain and cold, biting wind that turned the streets into a dark, slippery mirror. The office of the Sterling Group on the 62nd floor was warm, smelling of fresh white pine and the quiet, high-tech hum of the new EV terminals. Vivian stood by the window, her fingers slowly tracing the edge of her coffee mug, the one I had bought her from the local diner, which she now insisted on using every day. Zoe, she said, her voice quiet. The Miller Group's credit lines have been frozen. The board of directors held an emergency meeting at 10 this morning. They've removed Garrison from his position as CEO. I know, boss, I said, typing a rapid sequence of commands into my tablet to finalize our third-quarter earnings report. The legal aid fund we set up under Serenity's name, the one to pay back her debts to the hospital? The audit proved she spent $30,000 of his company credit card on a luxury vacation last month. The board is treating it as corporate embezzlement. And Garrison? He's in a cheap rental room near the old harbor, I said. He refused to see her yesterday. Apparently, her hardworking, innocent routine doesn't look so romantic when they don't have a Maserati to drive home in. Vivian let out a soft, dry laugh. He called me Zoe, she said, her voice dropping. He asked if we could meet at the old steakhouse. He said he made a mistake. He said he was blind. Did you go? I asked. I didn't have time, she smiled, her dark eyes meeting mine, her posture completely relaxed. Parker had a seminar on thermodynamics and I promised him I'd help him set up the projector. Besides, the steakhouse has a new owner now. The service is terrible. I stood up, walked to her side, and looked out at the misty city. The story had been completely rewritten. The villainous was a successful, respected CEO. The male lead was a disgraced, insolvent playboy, and the female lead was currently facing a corporate fraud investigation. We did well, boss, I said. No, Zoe, she said, wrapping her arm around my shoulder, her touch warm and solid. We did perfect. Now go tell the finance department to process your 7-figure bonus. The new quarter is about to start. I grinned, my tablet held tight against my chest, and walked out of the office, into the bright, clean light of the hallway. The life of a 6-figure executive assistant was finally, beautifully, on track.